Why do you do that? Anybody? It's a social thing. Because you don't want to be rude to people, but you're too embarrassed to ask them what they said. Right? I always get in trouble because I ask my wife, I've actually had my hearing checked, and I have one ear that's a little bit off, but not enough to get a hearing aid. When my wife thinks I need a hearing aid, so I think it's a disease called husband. But she always says, and after I ask her 3 times, I just stopped asking her because I know how this is going to go. And I would say, okay. And I nod my head. And then I walk away and she said, are you going to do that? And I said, what was that? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Right? So and she's not here. So that's good. So, all right. She made sure. So what I'm trying to get at is sometimes when we teach something, we have to be very specific. Now, I'm 40 years old, so I probably get a grasp of kind of what you're saying. And when somebody says, some general things when you listen, right? I'm 40 years old, I know, or I should know. Okay. So eyes, mouth, feet, lean in. A related response. What else? What's listening? Anything else you'd add to that?
Say, hear my words.
Hear your words.
Attention.
Attention. Attention's kind of vague, and you write that down.
Understanding.
And then hear my words. I have to think about that. So, because what does that mean to hear my words?
You have to apply context.
Apply context. Okay.
Waiting. There's a lot of waiting.
Kim will protect me. I just want you to know. So,
That's right.
Okay. So, and I could go through what does following directions mean, right? What does going to bed mean, right? So here's the thing. I have to teach these to kids. I have to teach every little step to kids on this stuff.
A big one is waiting.
Waiting.
That's hard.
Yeah.
The way to turn.
Just part of listening is waiting, because kids on the autism spectrum sometimes like to talk a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's people because if you look up, it's like they don't talk, but I'm like, no, I can tell you they talk. Okay. Some don't talk, some do talk, but some talk a lot. Okay. So when I think about this, so when we talk about interventions, it's easy to say, I just want them to listen. I hear that, I just want them to listen. Okay? I wish my 15-year-old would just listen. Okay. So, and I do this for a living, so what's important to know is you have to teach all these things. It's impossible to teach the thousands of things that we in this room probably do every single day without really thinking about it. Those who were last week, I talked about Walmart, okay, on a Saturday, all right? I won't go back through that, but you ever get to come and you get to hear me talk about Walmart, you won't look at Walmart ever the same. So, the other part is sometimes we got to focus on the positive things that kids are doing. So acknowledging what they're doing well. How many of you have been pulled over by a police officer and they said, thanks for going the speed limit?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So, I know some law enforcement people, I said, what if I, it's kind of, so I'd be arrested. I'd be in trouble for unlawful detainment, So, right? But, so we're not very good at catching kids doing well, and that's a very important part of the treatment. So you've got to catch them doing well, even if that's the smallest thing. So I had a girl, probably as big as me, almost out of high school, years ago. We were at this big, I had one of those heavy plastic vases, and I'm sitting, she got up from the chair, this was a group home I was running, and I said to myself in my head, I was like, this is going to hurt, because I knew exactly what it was going to hurt. I was like, this is going to hurt. This was like 10 years ago, much younger, more in shape, and less breakable. So she threw it. It hit the wall behind me. Okay. And everybody freaked out. And I said, I thought in my head, she purposely did not hit me. She purposely did not hit me. Okay? Because I was like this far away. Like, there's no way she would not hit me, because I was just waiting for this to hurt. And so I told her, thanks for not hurting me. Okay? And she said, I did not want to hurt you, Brett. And I said, thank you. Right? Huge moment for us. Because what do people usually say to her? I'm going to call the police. You're not going to do that. You're grounded. Okay, and that's hard. It's really hard. Everybody else wants to do that. So really, it's important to focus on the positive. Doesn't mean you ignore the other behavior, but in the moment, it shifted everything for me because I focused on the positive thing, and it could have really went bad. So you got to catch them doing well. All right, anybody seen this book, No, David, No? I usually read it. I'm not going to read it for you. Okay, so out of sake of time, and if we get 5 more minutes, I'll take a break for a few minutes. So the whole premise of the book is actually a book written about a kid wrote this book. His mom found the book. He's now 20, 30 years old. They published it, and this book is all about no, David, don't. No, David, no, David, no, David, no, David, no, David, no, David. The very end of the book says, yes, David, I love you. Okay? And that's the one message that we have to communicate. The one thing I had a parent tell me, the kid who did the unpause thing, the first time I went to go work with her, he had a huge meltdown. I mean, super aggressive, very, very aggressive. And Mom wanted me to leave because she did not want me to see it. She was afraid I was never going to come back. That was her fear. I went to her house. I'm a big guy too, so it's not. I have lots of things happen. So I stuck with her. It was a couple hours. It was over and done with. And I told her, I said, I'm going to hang in here with you. She was afraid. And then when I came back the next week, she said, I weren't coming back. Okay? And I said, and I didn't tell her, that's what she thought, because that's what everybody else had did. Okay? So the one thing is, what does that tell kids and families? That I care about you. Okay? So important about kids and schools and everybody, you got to hang in there. Your behavior is tough. It's very difficult. And the reason why I kind of put this up front is because this is one of the most therapeutic things that I can do with kids and families. And so, and for people that know me, sometimes you'll see me in schools and I'll work with a teacher. I don't get paid for that. I travel, I go to IQ meetings. There's lots of things I believe in doing. Because if it makes things better for the kid, it makes things better for the family, it makes my job easier. Okay. So, we'll just practice this real quick. So we want to teach kids what to do. We usually tell them stop, right? So stop running the house. So I want to do positive opposites real quick. This is a good intervention. So what's the opposite of running in the house?
Be still.
Walking, right? Walking in the house. Now I want to tell this kid where you can run, which is? Outside. Walk in the house, run outside. Simple intervention, right? Makes a huge difference. Okay? Share with your sister. So, how do I tell a kid? Share with your sister? What's that?
Which one do you want?
Which one do you want? Or ask your sister, which one do you want? That's right. So I'm going to teach them simple intervention. Stop yelling. What's the opposite of stop yelling?
Talking. Use your inside.
Talk quietly. Use your
inside voice.
Use your inside voice, right? Okay. Use your inside voice. Where can you yell? Outside on the playground. Okay. Right? So when you tell kids to be quiet, what's the positive opposite of that? Where is it? Be noisy. Yeah, it could be noisy. I probably put that in there and forgot to take it out. It doesn't make much sense, does it? So, anyway, so sometimes they're not positive opposites. What's the positive opposite of?
There's a positive to that. You
Okay, go
can
ahead.
work with me about that.
Okay.
Because just demonstrating what a quiet voice is.
Be quiet. So yeah.
Use a quiet voice yourself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they don't know what that means.
So I demonstrate it for them, right? So one of the things I'm going to talk about is modeling, which is really, really important. So how about stop hitting? What's the opposite of that? Gentle touch, hugging, right?
Keeping your hands to yourself.
Hug me, right? So you're like, okay, no. So, but you can, if you say, so if a kid's hitting or pushing another kid on the playground, depends what it is, right? I usually say, okay, nice hands. Okay, I work with one kid where I actually go to the playground at lunchtime and I have to teach him how to do this. Because the playground, lunchtime, 2 aides, 150 kids. Okay? That's not a good combination, okay? So, so I have to teach them, okay, we're gonna use gentle hands, we want to get somebody's attention, you're gonna put their hand on your shoulder. And I'm trying to think of, and I got all these kids running around, I'm a big guy, you don't see many guys on the playground, so everybody's right? So they're like, okay, toss the football, do this, right? So that works good because I teach a lot of play skills, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk a little bit about the behavior curve, challenging behavior curve. We got a couple minutes. Challenging behavior usually follows this, okay? So, for example, so you got a kid who wants a toy. Okay, so the antecedent is the trigger. And this is a whole separate training. Not that I want to do another one, but so there's a triggering event. So this kid sees a toy another kid has. Okay, so that's the trigger. So what does he do? Most of my kid, their behavior increases and they're going to punch and hit to get what they want. Okay, and what we do is there's usually a consequence after. And what do we do usually as adults? Take the toy away, right? Do something. Okay. So challenging behavior follows kind of this curve. So you ask a kid to take a bath or bedtime. Bedtime. Oh yeah, that's a nice one, right? So bedtime is the antecedent, right? It's the trigger. So what do kids do at bedtime when they're little? Their behavior increases. Can I have another drink of water? Can I have another kiss? Right? Could you please read another book to me? And they got this little puppy dog face, right? Okay. What do we do? Sure, right? Okay, so bedtime, their behavior increases, they do these things. And the consequence is, in this case, is they get what they want, right? Okay, so I just wanted, so this is a trigger, this is the behavior, the consequence. And the reason why I'm talking about it is, most interventions I'm going to talk about today is preventing the triggers from happening. Because if we can prevent the behavior, which is the most challenging component, right, that's going to help. And part of it is, anyway, that's just kind of the piece. So if I can teach a kid how to play and take turns, they don't ever get to the behavior. You know, they don't ever get punished. And I'll leave this last part with you. So there's 3 categories of the intervention I'm going to talk about today. And for years I've been trying to figure out how to do this, and I came across a program called Prevent, Teach, and Respond, and I added Reinforce. And so if we can prevent behaviors, right, that's going to help. If I can teach the appropriate behaviors, that's going to help. And if I can change how we respond as adults, or caregivers, or professionals, it can reinforce the right kinds of behaviors. Okay, so I'll give everybody 5 minutes.
Brett, before you stop, can I share something that we did as an intervention with this?
Sure.
With Jordan, he's so concrete. They're black, white. There's no gray. I don't know. It's really hard if there's no gray in that middle. I'll go up front so you'll turn around. Sorry. We actually, I'm going to one day market this. I developed an if and then chart for him. Okay? And Jordan and I did it together. This was when he was 5, 4, because he was smart enough to figure it out. But you know how you're so frustrated by the end? I mean, bedtime happens every day. Why are you guys surprised by it? You know? Right? I mean, that's what happens. You're like, ah! So we had an if and then chart. If, and it had trains on it, you know, it had pictures on it, so he liked it. It gets color, put stickers on it. If Jordan goes to bed nicely, then tomorrow night we'll have 2 books. Okay? But it was his deciding what the reinforcement was going to be. Okay? So when he had a meltdown at bedtime, I'd be like, ooh, go read the chart. So nice. I didn't have to get upset. I didn't have to do anything because he was smart enough to know what the chart said. Oh, and then there was also a consequence. If Jordan doesn't go to bed nicely, there's no books. Okay? So it was clear on a big board. He knew what was going to happen, you know, and it took all the emotion out of that parenting piece, which is sometimes where Jordan and I would talk, we're on this train track, and Jordan's track's still going, and I'm like sitting on the platform just watching him. Wow. But I had to learn not to have any emotion in that. So that if and then chart is really helpful. If you play nice with your friends on the playground, then this can happen. You know, you can go to Mark's house and have time, you know, or RJ's or whatever, and play with him. If you don't, you know, there'll be no Legos. I mean, anyway, but it had to be concrete, and the key to that was doing it with Jordan, not without Jordan. So he was part of making those decisions, even as a little guy. So I'd say, oh, go read the chart. What's it say? Ah, no emotion. And it really helped. Just take that piece out of there. And it reinforced. It toned down my response. So, and I'm very type AAA. I had to be really mellow with Jordan. That's one thing I learned. So all those things. Yeah.
So just a few minutes, like 5 minutes, so I can take a break for a second, and then I'm going to Let's flip through